Christmas was supposed to be a time of warmth and joy. For Emily Parker, it was anything but. The snow fell hard, blanketing the quiet streets of her small suburban town in white. Street lights flickered weakly through the swirling flakes as Emily finished her late shift at the hospital. Her breath came in shallow clouds as she hurried to her car. The holiday spirit felt distant, replaced by a cold knot of dread in her stomach. Her phone buzzed, but she ignored it. After all, who would call her at this hour on Christmas Eve? Driving home, Emily noticed something strange. The Christmas lights on the houses along her street were blinking in strange patterns, not the usual steady glow or cheerful twinkle. Some decorations were missing or broken, and cars were parked haphazardly as if someone had left in a hurry. When she finally reached her front porch, her heart skipped a beat. On the doormat lay a small envelope, sealed with red wax and marked only with the letter M. Inside was a note written in hurried, jagged handwriting. "Don't trust anyone tonight. Watch the shadows." Emily's hands trembled as she read the words. Who could have left this? And why? A chill ran down her spine, far colder than the winter air outside. The snowstorm outside seemed to grow heavier, pressing against the windows as if the night itself was closing in. Emily locked the door behind her and tried to shake the feeling of being watched. She didn't know it yet, but this Christmas Eve was about to become a night she would never forget. Emily barely slept that night. The note's warning echoed in her mind as she paced her small living room, eyes darting toward every shadow and corner. Her son, Danny, slept peacefully, unaware of the growing unease around them. The next morning, just as the sun struggled to break through the heavy gray clouds, there was a knock at the door. Emily's heart jumped. She wasn't expecting anyone. Slowly, she opened it. Standing there was Mark Thompson, her brother. His face was weathered, eyes tired but pleading. She hadn't seen him since his arrest a year ago. "I'm sorry, Em," he said quietly. "I want to make things right." Emily hesitated. The past between them was full of pain and broken promises. But with Danny watching, she nodded, letting him in. Mark's presence brought an odd mix of relief and fear. He helped her with the Christmas decorations, lighting the broken strands of lights outside. But strange things continued. The power flickered, and the lights blinked faster, casting long, twisted shadows that seemed to crawl along the walls. That evening, Emily found her Christmas packages moved or missing. Her phone rang with silence on the other end. And when she peeked outside, she saw Mrs. Whitmore, the reclusive elderly neighbor, standing across the street, watching her with cold, unreadable eyes. Emily wanted to believe it was just stress, just the strain of the season. But something dark was stirring, something that didn't want this Christmas to end quietly. That night, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching them. The house creaked and groaned under the weight of the wind outside. Danny was asleep, but Emily kept the lights on, her eyes scanning every dark corner. Mark sat quietly in the living room, avoiding her gaze. Finally, he spoke. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, voice low. "Before I went away, I heard things about this town. About what happened here years ago during Christmas. Fires, disappearances. People said the spirit of someone who died in those fires never left." Emily frowned, trying to push aside the growing pit of fear in her stomach. "That sounds like a ghost story." Mark shook his head. "It's more than that. Some say it comes back every year, especially around Christmas. It looks for people to take." Emily's breath caught. She thought of Mrs. Whitmore's cold stare, the flickering lights, the missing packages. Suddenly, the power cut out. The room was plunged into darkness. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, from somewhere deep in the house, a slow, dragging sound. Something heavy moving just out of sight. Emily's heart pounded as she reached for her phone. No signal. The night had just begun. The next morning, Emily felt exhausted but knew she couldn't ignore the strange events any longer. She bundled Danny in his coat and stepped outside, determined to talk to Mrs. Whitmore. The old woman lived alone at the end of the street, her house shadowed by tall, bare trees. Emily found her sitting on her porch, staring blankly at the snowy road. "Mrs. Whitmore," Emily called softly. "I need to ask you something." The woman's eyes flickered with something between sadness and fear. "You should be careful," she said quietly. "This town hides dark memories. Every Christmas, something wakes. It's been like this for decades." Emily pressed for more, but Mrs. Whitmore only shook her head. "You don't want to know what happened here. Just keep your family safe." Emily's unease grew heavier as she walked back home. Who was behind the note? What was this presence everyone seemed to fear but never named? That night, the flickering lights returned, more aggressive than before. Danny complained of hearing whispering voices outside his window. Emily stayed by his side, feeling the cold press against the walls like a living thing. The darkness was closing in. Detective James Harper came knocking the day after Christmas. He was a tall man with a calm but serious demeanor, his eyes sharp as he surveyed Emily's tired face. "I'm here because of the recent disappearances," he said. "Several people from this neighborhood have gone missing on or around Christmas Eve over the last few years. No signs of struggle, no clues. It's like they vanished into thin air." Emily's throat tightened. "Do you think it's connected to something supernatural?" The detective gave a slight, knowing smile. "I don't dismiss anything. But I do know there's something odd about this town's history. We've had unexplained fires, old rumors about a spirit or curse tied to those tragedies." Mark appeared behind Emily, his expression grim. "That's what I was trying to warn you about." That evening, Emily found herself drawn to the basement door, a place she had always avoided. It was colder near it, and sometimes she thought she heard soft scraping noises below. With Mark's help, she unlocked the door and stepped down into the darkness. The air was thick, the walls lined with old, cracked bricks. In the corner, she found faded photographs and newspaper clippings about the fires and disappearances decades ago. Something unseen watched from the shadows. Emily and Mark spent hours in the basement, piecing together the tragic history buried beneath their home. The old newspaper clippings told of a fire that had destroyed several houses on their street 50 years ago, killing a family in mysterious circumstances. Rumors had spread that the father had gone mad and taken his own life after the fire, and some believed his spirit never left. As Emily sifted through the dusty papers, she uncovered a strange journal. The handwriting was frantic and desperate. The entries described the father's growing paranoia, his fear that something was lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim the neighborhood. Suddenly, a cold draft swept through the basement. The lights flickered, and Emily felt a presence near her, cold, heavy, and watchful. Mark's voice broke the silence. "We need to be careful. Whatever this is, it doesn't like being disturbed." A sudden noise upstairs made them freeze, a soft but urgent tapping on the floor above, like someone trying to get their attention. Emily swallowed hard, knowing the darkness was no longer confined to the past. That night, Emily barely slept. Every creak of the house, every flicker of the Christmas lights, felt like a warning. Danny clung to her side, whispering that he saw shadows moving outside his window. At midnight, the power suddenly cut out again. The entire neighborhood was plunged into darkness. Emily grabbed a flashlight and moved carefully through the house, trying to reassure Danny while listening for any strange sounds. Outside, the snow muffled footsteps, but Emily thought she saw a faint light flickering in the distance, like a candle being carried by someone walking slowly down the street. She opened the front door and stepped outside into the bitter cold. The light disappeared before she could get a better look, leaving only the quiet hum of the snowstorm. Mark appeared behind her, his face pale. "It's starting again," he said. "The same thing that took the others." Emily's heart pounded. They were no longer just fighting memories or rumors. Something real and deadly was stalking the night. The following day, Emily knew she couldn't wait any longer. She had to confront whatever was haunting her family and the neighborhood. With Mark by her side, she descended once more into the basement. The air grew colder with every step. Shadows stretched and shifted around them like living things. The journal lay open on a broken table, its final entry smeared with what looked like dried blood. Suddenly, a whisper filled the room, low and chilling. Emily's skin prickled as the voice seemed to echo from the walls themselves. "Leave this place." But Emily's fear turned to resolve. "We're not leaving," she said firmly. "Not until you leave my family alone." The temperature dropped further, and a dark shape began to materialize in the corner. It was tall, twisted, and filled with sorrow and rage. Mark stepped forward, holding an old charm he had found in the journal, an amulet said to bind restless spirits. The shape recoiled, wailing like a wind through dead trees. Emily clenched her fists, standing her ground. The battle for their lives had begun. The dark presence seemed to shrink back as Mark held the amulet high. The oppressive weight in the basement lifted just slightly, but the air remained heavy with menace. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed upstairs. Emily and Mark rushed up to find Danny's room empty. The window was wide open, snow drifting inside. Panic surged through Emily as she called out for her son, her voice cracking in the cold silence. No answer. Detective Harper arrived minutes later, his face grim. "This is exactly what we feared. The disappearances always happen fast, like someone just takes them away." Emily's heart broke, but she forced herself to keep calm. Somewhere out there, Danny was still alive. She had to find him. As the storm raged outside, Emily realized the darkness was not done with them. The real nightmare was only beginning. The storm outside battered the house as Emily, Mark, and Detective Harper searched desperately through the neighborhood. Every shadow seemed alive, every whisper in the wind chilling her to the bone. Emily's phone finally lit up, a message from an unknown number. "Look beneath the Christmas tree." Heart pounding, she rushed home. In the living room, beneath the flickering tree lights, she found a trapdoor hidden under the rug. Mark and the detective helped her open it, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. With only a flashlight to guide them, they descended. The air was icy and thick with the smell of smoke and decay. At the bottom, they found Danny, frightened but unharmed, clutching a small carved wooden figure. Suddenly, the dark presence appeared again, swirling around them, its mournful howl filling the air. Mark held the amulet up once more. The spirit hesitated, then vanished in a gust of cold wind, leaving behind a silence so deep it pressed on their souls. Emily gathered Danny into her arms, tears freezing on her cheeks. The nightmare had ended, for now. Outside, the first light of Christmas morning broke through the storm, but Emily knew the darkness would always linger just beneath the surface.